activities following the event. So with that, let's get started. I would like to again first introduce Neil Williams for a few introductory slides before we get into our main session with Emily. Neil?
Thanks, Kim. Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us today. Great turnout for today's event. I don't know if that's just lucky timing or the Grubhub card we promised you, but whatever it is, we appreciate your attendance today, and we'll certainly do our best to provide some information that may help you in your day-to-day jobs going forward. So I have seen the attendee list. Most of you are already clients of cStor. There are a few names that I didn't recognize, so I'm just going to go through a couple of slides real quick. cStor has been in business for over 20 years now. Our focus has always been to provide best of breed solutions and services that help our clients do their jobs better and easier. We focus on three main areas. Data center solutions is sort of where our bread was buttered 20 years ago. For a long time, that encompassed data security, but over the years, as security's become more important, we've sort of branched off and created a cybersecurity division, which is easily the fastest growing portion of our business. And then digital transformations, that funny term that some people define as cloud or business transformation, but it's really data center 2.0 in our definition. So we talked about our approach to helping our clients on a path to success, and we do that through a focused vendor agnostic approach. And then lastly, what really separates us from our competition is our people, the people who actually put these solutions together, either in the architecture phase or during the implementation phase. All of our engineers have 10+ years experience in their specific area, and we use those people's knowledge to separate ourselves from our competition. So with that, I'll introduce Emily from Veeam, and you'll probably hear my voice again during Emily's presentation because Veeam is easily one of our most strategic partners, and I think we probably have more Veeam clients across our portfolio than anything else, so it's an area we know well.
Perfect. Thanks, Neil. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Tejas. I'm a senior systems engineer with Veeam Software. Been with Veeam for about 6 years now, so kind of seen it grown from the version 7.5 days all the way up to version 10, which was finally released in February. So definitely wanted to take some time today to kind of go through some of those different capabilities that were added in as new features that were released with the February 18th, but then also even touch on a few things that have happened since then, right? So there's been a few patch updates, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of you maybe even seen some of the emails for Veeam that was last week. So just wanted to make sure that everybody was being kept in the loop with everything that's going on with Veeam, and of course, if there are questions, please feel free to leverage that question box so that way Katie or Kim can make sure that they're keeping an eye on it, and happy to answer those where we can. So Veeam 2020, Veeam version 10. Our big focus with the version 10 release was around cloud. I'm sure a lot of you have some type of cloud initiative, whether that's, trying to figure out where you can take applications that are being run on-prem to a SaaS-based solution, and usually that first step is like a Office 365, right? I run Exchange on-prem. How can I run my Exchange in a hybrid environment where I can have higher availability of that data, but not have to manage all the hardware and the software itself? So when we start talking about cloud data management, it's really about how are we going to manage that data when it comes to making sure that we're still able to meet SLAs regardless of where that application lives, right? So if you have an SLA of I need to maintain, my backups on-site or on-prem for up to 30 days, but now I move that to the cloud, right? What's that SLA going to be? Just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean that it's going to be meeting those backup needs or that protection policy. So cloud data management really comes into play there, right? How are we going to make sure that that data is going to be protected? How are we going to make sure that that data is going to be available in the event that you ever need it? And then, of course, we start getting into intelligence-driven monitoring. So ransomware is a huge, huge topic of concern for a lot of end users, right? So how can we take some of the data sets that we already know that live within our environment and know how our environment runs in a healthy state, and how can we apply some intelligence behind that to start to understand, you know, when there could be possibly something malicious happening in the background, whether that's high I/O on data stores, whether that's high CPU utilization on a virtual machine that's never reached to that peak at some point in time. So how can we expand that further to kind of help to prevent us from having ransomware get hit, but also how do we prevent it from spreading across the entire infrastructure? And then, of course, when we talk about leveraging that data for your greater business, making sure that you can test your backups, making sure you can leverage those backups in the event that you want to run some type of update or planned development, right? And then, of course, no proprietary lock-in. The nice thing about Veeam is that we kind of started our cloud journey back in 2016 with our Veeam Cloud Connect service providers and leveraging those managed service providers for their data center strategies and being able to have them use Veeam in the background to be an offsite location for customers that were looking to get into the cloud but weren't too sure about the public big guys that are out there. But with version 10, right, we expanded that portfolio. So it's not just Veeam Cloud Connect anymore. Now we have all these other great partners like AWS, Microsoft Azure, as well as IBM, and then some other S3 vendors that I'll talk about a little bit later. There it goes. So why is V10 important to our customers? Oh, and I was going to go right back. So a few different things, right? The growth. So we're seeing a lot of customers that are reporting that they're seeing unstructured data up to 2025. So that's going to be more around the sprawl of it, right? As you're starting to grow, as you're starting to develop some of these cloud strategies and moving some of these applications from being on-prem to an AWS, to an Azure, to Google, right? How are you going to manage the control over that data set? You know, where are you guys going to see yourselves growing more when it comes to that certain cloud vendor versus the current infrastructure that you have on site? And then, of course, complexity, right? A lot of organizations start to see that there could be some complexity involved when they are deploying those different types of applications, because you're so used to, you know, we have a SQL, we have a SharePoint farm that runs this way on-prem, and then we moved it to another location, to a cloud provider, and now we're not getting the performance that we need, or maybe it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So the complexity and how to design that to work better for you, to not only make sure that, you know, it's meeting the needs of a monetary value, but also meeting the needs from a performance standpoint. And then when we talk about compliance, again, it's just going back to that, you know, what is our SLAs when it comes to downtime? What is our SLAs when it comes to legal holds or litigation items? Making sure that we're always going to be in compliance, regardless if we're a state department, a school district, or just, you know, a regular commercial business. And then, of course, making sure that data is always going to be secure.
Hey, Emily, I'm going to jump in real quick if that's okay.
Sure.
So I personally have been working with Veeam, providing solutions to clients for about the last 9 years. And just a little, you know, historical perspective, many of you may know, but, you know, 9 years ago, the Veeam solution kind of did one thing, and it did it really well, and it filled a hole in the market that nobody else was really focusing on, which was backing up virtual whatever your virtual environment looked like. Veeam did a really good job of doing that 9 years ago. and we had a lot of success with Veeam, fixing that problem for clients. And then, like a normal problem, clients said, hey, this is great for our virtual environment. How about these other 4 or 5 areas of our business that are also important, whether that be unstructured data or governance or, whatever it may be. And, the answer from Veeam for a long time was, hey, we're really good at this virtual thing. We're going to focus on that, and we're going to continue doing that. So, here we are in version 10, and now Veeam has added a lot of feature and functionality that allows our clients to take that same Veeam approach of easy to use, but also very functional into other areas outside of the virtual world.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great segue, right? So with version 10, being able to have some of those focus features that we introduced inside of that new product. So we still are known for Veeam Backup, right? A lot of customers use that today for backing up their virtual workloads, but then there's always one piece that some customers do forget, which is replication. So replication for us is giving you that high availability of virtual workloads, being able to replicate a fully virtualized machine over to another host and keep it in a standby ready mode. In the event the original one goes down, you click a button, that virtual machine comes powered up online in a separate data center on another host, right? So that's included in the product. So we wanted to make sure that everybody had those full availability when it came to whatever type of data sets or whatever type of SLAs they needed to maintain, but then also focus on, those other things that your customers have been asking for a very long time. So first one was NAS. In version 9.5 update 4, we introduced NDMP support, and then we also had file copy support, which would just dump files from your, whatever it's a NetApp filer or Isilon, whatever type of shared off environment you have, we would just copy that off onto, a separate disk. Well, with V10, we now have a newly performed as well as better created NAS Backup solution, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that and kind of what the schematics are behind it and how we created this specific backup feature to work and give you kind of the best of both worlds. Multi-VM instant recovery is what we're known for probably for the last 7 or 8 years. So it's definitely not reinventing the wheel here. Instead, we just took that really great feature that a lot of customers love us for, made it better. So multi-VM instant recovery, I could go into my environment. If I have an entire host that's down, I have an entire cluster or farm, whatever it may be, I can highlight as many virtual machines as I want and spin them all up at the exact same time. So just giving you some of the additional capabilities in there to be able to leverage that data and put it to work. And then, of course, the big one, right, when it comes to ransomware. So we did integrate with leveraging immutable backup targets, one of those being S3 within AWS. So this will allow us to take any of the data sets that we do push off into Amazon and leverage that as a way to say that any data set that gets written to that bucket within AWS cannot be erased, cannot be changed, cannot be deleted, cannot be moved for any point in time until the SLA retention on it has been hit. So those are the 3 focus features we're going to talk a little bit about today, but of course, 150 plus additional features in there that Veeam announced within version 10 that are fully available for customers to utilize. So first things first is let's talk a little bit about NAS. So we were going to go on a little quick journey about NAS, right? So there's different types of NAS in the world today. So I mentioned a few of those, right? You have your NetApp filers, you have a Dell EMC Isilon. Those are those high-end, big hardware, unstructured devices that are going to be used specifically for holding petabytes amount of data. And then you have some of the commodity NASs where, you have a Synology, you have a QNAP, or maybe you just built out your own and it's shared off of an SMB share via Windows or Linux. So those are some of the different types of NAS, and those are going to be all ones that Veeam's going to support today. When we look at NAS challenges in particular, and why NDMP wasn't going to be the one-all be-all solution for everything, is usually with NAS is you have it there for a purpose. And usually it's a place for everybody just to kind of dump their files, dump their pictures, just get anything that they can off of their main computer, so that way you don't have to worry about, you know, them deleting it, them losing that data set. It's already being saved off into somewhere else. So we usually see with NAS is that data set is always going to be growing, right? We're either going to see it in the number of objects, we're either going to see it in the amount of file size, and we're also going to see some customers are going to have some type of SLA on, we need to maintain some of this data for longer, right? We can't just keep data sets for 14 days. We have to keep it for 30 days or up to 7 years, just depending on what type of industry we work in. And then usually with those NAS challenges is there's no oversight to that unstructured data, right? You kind of have it just kind of sits there and it just grows. And then as it grows and out fills, you just add another shelf. So that way you can make sure that you're maintaining the amount of data set that you need to. So when we look at some of those NAS challenges, we thought about what are some key differentiators that we can kind of help our customers to make the best out of those situations of that unstructured data just growing tremendously. So one of the things we did was created a changed file tracking mechanism. So if some of you are Veeam customers today, you probably know this based off of either using the Veeam agents or using Veeam for backing up your virtual machines, but we're known for using those change file tracking or those change block tracking mechanisms, right? This helps you to make those incremental backups a lot faster because we have a way to go back and look at data sets that have already been written as backups and then just capture those new unique data points and move those over. So we developed this change file tracking mechanism specifically to work for all of our NAS customers. Again, no utilization of NDMP. Of course, if you want to use NDMP, that's still available in the Veeam console today. However, this is going to take that approach completely out of it as the way that we're going to do backup. And then, of course, in true Veeam fashion, right, we wanted to make sure that this stayed agnostic. We didn't want it to be okay, you have NetApp, so then you're fine, but if you have EMC, it's not going to work that way. We wanted this to be work across all those different type of NAS storage platforms that all of our customers have. So some of the unique benefits, it's going to be scalable architecture. So you're going to be able to scale this as your unstructured data grows. You don't have to worry about, you know, my backup's not performing or my recovery is not performing at a fast speed that I'm used to seeing from Veeam. We're going to see some additional options in there when it comes to the storage snapshot support. So if you are running an EMC or NetApp, being able to leverage that, or if it's running off of Windows, leveraging a VSS snapshot directly from Veeam, being able to offsite that backup, still being able to leverage object storage in the event that I need to keep data sets longer than what's required on-prem, then I could still be able to push some of that data up into object storage for a longer term retention at a smaller cost and price. And then, of course, with the file share data recovery, you're going to have all the options that were available to you when you just did regular Windows file guest OS recovery. So being able to restore those specific shares back to points in time, being able to restore a specific folder, being able to roll back a specific file, all of those pieces that are going to be unique to that file level recovery tool are all going to be available in NAS.
Emily, can I jump in here again real quick?
Absolutely.
So really, you know, again, my experience working with Veeam for the last 9 years, I've seen two very specific use cases, we'll call them. One is clients who really wanted to use Veeam, but had trouble justifying moving forward because it did not support 100% of their environment. And most of the time, that was the unstructured data piece. So for those of you that looked at Veeam in the past and chose not to move forward because it only supported the virtual side and not 100% of your environment, now is a great time to re-explore Veeam because they can probably do 100% of your environment. You don't have to worry about running 2 backup environments or not being able to support all of your user needs. Number 2 is those people that decided to move forward with Veeam and built workarounds either through Veeam or maybe just by using storage snapshots to support the structured data. Now's a good time to re-explore how you might use Veeam differently going forward, right? So very minor changes to your operational piece, but you may be able to add a lot of value to your business by taking advantage of new features that are built into version 10.
Absolutely. And one thing too that I'll mention here, just to kind of echo Neil's comments, is if you didn't move further and you do want to take a look at testing some of this functionality out yourself for NAS, reach out to your cStor rep. We are running promos with our partners to allow our customers to have up to a 90-day trial on testing some of these NAS capabilities. So feel free to reach out to them. They could get with the Veeam rep and they can make sure that you guys get access to those keys for testing and putting it into place. I can tell you right now from a lot of testing that I've done, I have one customer that tested with over 2 petabytes of data, which was really fun to see. He wanted to see it across his entire environment, and he had the storage for it. So we tested up to 2 petabytes of data for him, and what usually took from what he was using before would usually take him about 3 to 4 weeks to complete full backups, was taking him it took him 2.5 weeks to do a full backup, and then all of his incremental backups were taking less than a couple of days. So really great success story there for them, and they were truly happy with it, and they took advantage of that promo. So definitely feel free to reach out to your cStor reps and have that conversation. All right. So next thing is the instant VM recovery. So multi-VM instant recovery to VMware vSphere. So this is actually something that a lot of customers had asked about. With 9.5, we did allow customers to take any of your physical servers. So if you back them up with our Veeam agents, you were actually allowed to recover that data set as a Microsoft Hyper-V virtual machine. Now we just took that and we transferred it over to VMware. So I know a lot of customers are waiting for that, being able to have a P2V conversion tool to their VMware infrastructure. That's what this is going to give you. So you'll be able to do an instant recovery from any Veeam backup. So if it's a Hyper-V virtual machine today, if they're cloud VMs sitting inside of AWS or Azure, or if they're just physical servers sitting on site that you had a hard drive failure, or you just don't have any, or you just don't have a need to keep those physical anymore and you want to move them to virtual, you could test this, right? Back it up first so you have a copy in the event that something goes wrong, and then you have the option to just do it to restore. We'll go ahead and build the virtual machine template for you, and then we'll inject all the data and we'll convert it from physical disk to virtual disk. So really cool feature, really nice to have with the new version 10. And then of course, being able to recover multiple virtual machines simultaneously, not having to go through the wizard-driven process of restoring one by one, being able to highlight as many as possible, and then starting that instant virtual machine recovery process on a new host or secondary site. And then, of course, we kind of reintroduced the way that we were going to be doing this instant virtual machine recovery. We'll go back one. So one thing I will say is that today, how instant, or well, 9.5 version users, how instant VM recovery used to work was we would take the backup file sitting on your backup target, and then we would present that as NFS back to VMware, and we would run the data set off of that NFS data store off of your backup target. So that's how instant virtual machine recovery worked in the back end. With the new mechanism, Veeam actually takes that data set and runs it instead of off of the local disk. It's actually running it in RAM. So imagine it's going to boot in memory, so it's going to be a lot faster. So that's how we say that instant VM recovery piece is coming in there. So that's going to be the new process, the new mechanism for how we're going to be doing these restores. If you have 9.5 today, great. Feel free to upgrade to version 10. As long as you're within your support renewal, you're free to upgrade to version 10. That's not another purchase that would need to be made or anything like that. So you would have access to all of these features and be able to take advantage of some of those additional pieces for improved performance. So great snapshot here, right? Being able just to go ahead and highlight about 4 or 5 virtual machines and be able to choose to do an instant VM recovery of all of them at the same time. So nothing too crazy has changed from the console piece. Just keep that in mind. And then getting into ransomware protection. So I know this is generally the most hot topic when it comes to backups and security and what we're going to do to make sure we stay in compliance. So ransomware protection, the one thing I always say is, you know, you're not going to have a one-all be-all solution that's going to protect you from ransomware, right? You're going to have bundles of different types of solutions. Veeam's really going to be the, okay, we are hit with ransomware. What are we going to do to recover from our data set, right? And how do we make sure that the data that we are recovering back into our production environment isn't going to be malicious or corrupt, right? So that's one thing that I want to just make sure that that's fully identified, right? We're not looking at replacing your guys' security tools that you currently have in place or anything like that, right? This again is just going to give you some of that additional, kind of feel good that you're going to have those backups, so you're going to have your data to recover from in the event that something were to happen. So being that being said, right, ransomware protection, always want to talk about having a 3-2-1 backup approach. And 3-2-1 really means, you know, having 3 copies of your data. So 1 copy of that is actually the data that's running in your production environment. The second copy is your first local backup, so the backup that you're going to maintain on site for fast recovery in the event that you were to lose a file, a virtual machine, just something that you can recover within the next 30 days. And then you have your third copy, which is a copy that's being kept off-site. And this is something that can be written to tape. This is something that can be written to cloud or just off to another data center. And this can have a longer-term retention or it could have a shorter-term retention. It's really just to have that additional copy in the event primary production goes down, your backups are gone, you have that other one in a safe spot. Neil, did you want to say something here?
Yeah, thank you. So this is particularly for our state, local education clients who are on the phone and on the webinar today, and that's more than half of you. So I don't think it's a shock or surprise to any of you that in particular the state and local business is under attack from ransomware. We are seeing it at every one of our state and local clients in every state we work in. And so we know how hard it is for you, the IT team, to justify to the counselors or the directors or whoever may be in control of your funding that you need more tools to protect yourself from ransomware. So we know that's a difficult challenge. Our recommendation is while you're trying to get those additional funds to bolster additional tools, you should at least look at, and most of you are already Veeam clients, right? The state and local people on the phone. You should at least look at maybe changing the way you operate your backups today so that you can check all the boxes so that when you are hit with ransomware, you can guarantee you can get back to a good state. And, you know, at some known state that the business deems acceptable. So for most of you, it's not a question of needing to buy more tools if you're already running Veeam, but it may be a re-architecture of the way you're running backups and recovery so that you can check the boxes for when you are hit with ransomware.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, there's some really great success stories on the Veeam website as well. So if anybody here on this call is ever looking for additional ammunition to give to higher ups or anything like that, to say, you know, this is why, you know, backups are important, or disaster recovery plans, and having that up to date is important, is because, you know, ABC company or ABC school district or whoever it may be was hit with ransomware, and this is how they were able to recover and kind of minimize the amount of downtime. Those success stories are available on the Veeam website. So happy to make sure that link goes out with anything else after this call. But talking a little bit about that, right? So I had one customer that is a Veeam customer that was hit with ransomware, right? And the first thing that they did was call us. And the one nice thing is that at Veeam, we have multiple levels of support. The support is based in Columbus, Ohio, and it's follow the sun. So depending on where you're at, if it's 4 o'clock your time, you'll be getting it from Columbus, Ohio. If you have 24/7 support, it's probably going to be coming out of Australia as well for some of those after hours or weekend calls. But at our support team or at our support offices, we actually have 3 different tiers of teams. So we have your tier 1 support that's there for break fix. You have your tier 2 support that could do a little bit more deep dives if there's some SQL pieces, or I like to call SQL surgery, that needs to happen on the Veeam side, or just a little bit more technical that needs to happen within the environment or within the VMware or Hyper-V environment. They're there to help. And then you have your tier 3 support, which is actually going up to our developers, and they're working on, you know, doing a patch or creating a hot fix for you specifically for that environment. But one particular group is called our SWAT team. So any of our customers that do call that say, you know, we're having a data loss outage, regardless if it's ransomware or not, you automatically get pitched over to the SWAT team, and they jump on, do a reverse WebEx with you, and start walking through these steps to get you back online as quick as possible. So one of our customers that was hit with ransomware, they called into the SWAT team, and they were able to help them recover up to 300 virtual machines within a few days, right? And this was ransomware that was spread across their entire infrastructure that took pretty much almost everything down. So they were able to leverage the SWAT team, do the recoveries of these virtual machines, but then on top of that, one thing that we have as far as features that are extras built into the software is called data labs, or virtual labs for customers that are 9.5 and older users, right? So data labs is a way for us to spin up an isolated, fenced-off environment where we can take your backup files that are living on disk, move them into this isolated environment, and run tests against them. So some of those tests can be something we call the secure restore. So in a secure restore, what we'll do is we'll take the antivirus definition that you have. So if you're let's say, for example, SentinelOne customer for security, and that's what you want to use, you could take their antivirus definition, you can put that inside of the secure restore wizard. And essentially what Veeam would do was go through all of your old backups, check all of the blocks against that antivirus definition to see if there's anything malicious. If there is something malicious, we'll give you the option to either shut down the restore immediately, or you can go through some different options to say, okay, well, we can't do a full restore of that virtual machine, but you know what, we can do volume level restores because we don't have ransomware part of this, hasn't attacked everything else yet, or we could do a file level restore, right? So you have those options built in there to kind of help you to get back the most amount of data without it, you know, having a larger impact into the system. Because last thing you want to do is get hit by ransomware and it was a 0-day threat, and now you've recovered data that you thought was good back into production when it did have something malicious still on it. And then getting into staged restore, this is very unique for a lot of customers that have GDPR requirements. So that's going to be more on the lines of, you know, if you have to, or if you have an end user that says that they want to be purged from your database, that's very easy to do in production. Not so easy to do when you have 30 years worth of backups, right? So this is a way to make sure that those customers are staying in compliance. When you recover your data back into production, it's very simple. We'll just run a script in the background to purge that data set from the backup before it gets recovered back into production. So that way you're always going to be in compliance. You don't have to worry about any type of GDPR rule regulations being broken. That could all be done in the back end with Veeam. And if you're an Enterprise or Enterprise Plus customer today with Veeam, those capabilities are already built into the software. It's just as simple as going into your backup infrastructure tab, going into the virtual lab option, and just starting to set that up. And there's some really great documentation on both the Veeam website, YouTube tutorials. I mean, we have a lot of bloggers too, right? You could go there, and if you were just to search for virtual lab setup, a lot of them will do just quick and easy setups that will show you. But then there's a great documentation on the Veeam website as well. And go to next. I guess the one thing I didn't mention, but I'm sure it'll pop up here. So we did talk about that 3210 rule, making sure that we have one copy being kept off-site. Cloud tier enhancements with copy mode. So 9.5 update 4 re-announced the option to leverage some type of object storage, whether that's going to be Microsoft Azure or it's going to be AWS. And really, that was kind of our first step into the public cloud. A lot of customers, right, when they're looking at their cloud strategies, there's a lot of hesitancy with public cloud because it's very, very easy to get your data there, but it's a little bit harder and a little bit more costly to get your data out. So what we did as a first step was just helping some of those customers that wanted to expand their retention policy into the cloud, but not have it all be there. So that being said, right, you had a 90-day retention policy, but the majority of your restores always came from 30 days. You wanted to stay in compliance, so you have a 90-day retention policy, but only 30 days of data stay on site, and the other 60 gets shipped to AWS or to Azure or some other S3 cloud provider. So that's how it works in 9.5. In version 10, we gave you the additional option to do a copy out mode. So the copy out mode means any data set that you have on-prem is going to be in the cloud. So that helps with customers that are looking to say, well, if something were to happen tomorrow, I want to be able to recover the data from yesterday. And if that, backup repository or, my data set was all sitting on-prem at a local one location, and that was to catch fire or it was just to be gone, I want to be able to recover yesterday's backup. So this will allow you to go ahead and grab that data set that was being stored from yesterday from that object provider. And then, of course, with S3 within AWS, you have that option to turn on immutability on the bucket, which again gives you a type of air gap protection when it comes to S3. It gives this object lock integration is the word for it. So essentially anything that gets written to that bucket is always going to be written there based off of the SLA. So if you set 30 days on immutability, nothing can happen to that data. Nothing can be changed. Nothing can be deleted. You can't call AWS and say, I don't want to have an account anymore. You need to remove everything from our listing. They can't even do anything about it. They have to wait that 30 days until the time has expired for that data set to get removed. So that's going to be that additional capability with specifically AWS and S3. And then there's this additional conversation about it, right? It's going to be a worm model, but it's going to allow us to make sure that data set doesn't get deleted. And then this is what you would see inside of your Veeam console. So when you're looking at it, right, you have that option. Instead of just doing the limit object storage consumption, you have another checkbox here to make sure that that data set becomes mutable. And when you go ahead and set that timer, that's how it's going to let you know when that data can be erased or when it can be discarded. So 30 days is going to be for most customers, right? I want to have a month, but other ones can do up to 7 days, 14 days. I will say this does cost a little bit more. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but just keep that in mind when you're going through AWS and you're doing your calculator. Go ahead and make sure, I believe there's a checkbox to say I want to have this bucket immutable, and you should be able to put in that time period there, and it should let you know what that number, what that cost is going to be when it comes to turning that feature on. And then finally, here's just some of the resources at your disposal, right? So the Veeam resource library is great, always a lot of good information there. Veeam licensing policy. Veeam licensing hasn't really changed, right? We have sockets and then we have workloads. So you could either license by physical CPU socket of your virtual infrastructure, or you could license by the amount of workloads that you have. And that's a portable workload, so that's really nice. In the event that you do have a big cloud migration strategy, you have virtual machines on-prem, about 50, let's say you move 25 to them to the cloud and want to be able to back those up, those licenses that you've paid for can move with them. So that's going to be that reason for licensing per workload, or what we call the Veeam Universal Licensing. And then, of course, a lot of free tools that are going to be available on the Veeam website as well. So if you guys want to do some additional testing, like I mentioned earlier, leveraging that NAS piece, if that's something you do want to test, please reach out to your cStor rep, let them know, so that way they can make sure that they work with the Veeam account manager to get you the keys. And then we could also set up a call with an engineer to make sure that we have a proper testing environment in place, but then also go over any additional V10 features if you haven't upgraded yet. And then the Veeam community forums are always great. One thing I will mention is that every time Veeam does come out with these new features, it's based off of our community forums. So a lot of customers asked for NAS, and because of that, that's why we have it today. A lot of customers asked for agents for physical workloads. Again, another reason why we have it today. And then, of course, I want to bring up the last two things, which is Veeam AIX. So we do have an AIX agent that's available, and we do have one for Oracle Solaris. But I believe the AIX beta is available today. So if that's something that you want to test as well, again, get with your cStor rep, let them know. And then, of course, we do have 2 additional patch updates that had come out for version 10 since February 18. And those patches were to add additional support for any customer that has migrated to vSphere 7. So if you're not on 6.5, not 6.7, you moved off into 7, Veeam version 10 does support that fully. So let us know. Happy to get you that patch, the newest KB article that's available for download. And I believe that is all. Oh, the only other thing I guess we could talk about is Office 365 for some of our customers. So again, going back to that original conversation that we talked about for Microsoft Office 365, when you are moving your environment to run inside of a SaaS-based environment versus leveraging something that's going to be on-prem, making sure your data set is going to be protected in the event that it was to go down, or you were to get hit with litigation, or you needed to do some type of restores. So the explorers that are built into Microsoft Office 365 are the same ones that were available in 9.5 of Veeam Backup and Replication. So the Veeam Exchange Explorer, the one for SharePoint, those ones are going to be built into this tool as well. And it's going to allow you to do those same types of recoveries of individual email items, as well as granular recovery of SharePoint sites and OneDrive. So that's going to allow you to make sure you have a secondary option to protect your Office 365 data, being able to quickly restore those items, and then making sure we're meeting those compliance requirements with O365. So version 4 came out this year. We're going to be expecting another version release probably by the end of this year or the beginning of 2021. And that additional feature is going to add some additional protection around Teams. Today we back up Teams. It's captured within the databases itself, but we're going to add an additional Explorer in there for some customers that want to have some more granular type of recoveries when it comes to Teams. All right. I'll go ahead and leave it up for questions for Katie.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Emily, for the great information, and Neil as well. At this time, we will open it up for questions. As a reminder, you can post them to the questions pane, and we do have a few coming in. So we'll dive right in, given the time. First question to Emily. What is Veeam's Availability Suite? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So the Veeam Availability Suite is two products. It's Veeam Backup and Replication, which is the product that we talked about mostly today. So that's going to be the one that has the NAS Backup built in, as well as the options for doing the resource of virtual machines. But the other piece that a lot of customers always forget about is V10. So V10 is a separate software that needs to be installed separate from the backup and replication server. And what V10 does is it actually looks at your infrastructure and it gets to learn it in a healthy state. So it's really good for monitoring and reporting back to you, right, what my virtual machines are doing on a day-to-day basis. When do I need to start adding more CPU, more RAM, more data store space? But then also it helps with doing some types of auditing requirements. So if you have end users that are making changes to virtual machines or deleting parts of the infrastructure, right, this will help you do an audit to kind of see what's changed in the environment on a day-to-day or weekly basis. So there's over 300 plus different alarms and alerts you could set up, as well as some additional reports that can all be ran separately. So it's its own separate tool, just sits in the environment, learns it as it goes, and it starts to alert you when things could possibly be going unhealthy or wrong.
Great, thanks, Emily. Next question, a bit of a follow-up on that. It looks like, can you get the advanced monitoring, reporting, and capacity planning for backup without actually having the availability suite? Can you talk to that, Emily?
So the advanced monitoring and reporting piece. So the Veeam can be purchased completely separate, so you don't need backup and replication because they are two separate products that can work by themselves. But if you do want reporting, the Veeam Backup and Replication console does have reporting built into the software, so you can see how your backups are running on a day-to-day basis. I would just say that from a Veeam perspective, that's going to be a really great proactive approach, right? It's going to help you to make sure that, you know, before you run out of disk space, before you get hit with a virtual machine that goes down because of a snapshot that was left open and was never consolidated, it's going to alert you to some of those issues beforehand. So Veeam can be purchased separately, can be purchased together with Veeam Backup and Replication. So you have multiple options there. And then there is a free version of it on the website. So again, going back to those free tools, Veeam there is a free one. I believe it's up to 7 days. It doesn't monitor the backups. It only monitors the VMware Hyper-V environment.
And Emily, I'm going to add something there. We've had some clients in the past who had a hard time justifying the cost for Veeam, but what they were really just looking for immediate reporting so that they could make some business decisions on backup and recovery architecture. And cStor has incorporated Veeam into our backup and recovery assessment. So again, that's a one-time look at your data, but it can provide some really interesting results that help you make business type decisions going forward.
Thanks, Neil. That's a great point, and thanks, Emily, for that answer. We do have a couple of other questions. Somewhat related, does the backup and replication solution offer multi-tenant support? Emily?
So it does. So if you're looking at if you're a service provider, in the event that you're looking to be able to offload some of those backups or take control over backups, we do have another product called Veeam Cloud Connect for our Veeam managed service providers that are looking to take advantage of that. That'll give you some multi-tenant options in there. But then also, if you're just looking at it as a way for you to give some additional control back to other parts within the IT environment. So let's say, for example, you know, I'm I'm the IT manager, but then I have 20 people that report underneath me, and I want them to be able to handle their own types of restores. You could give people access from within Enterprise Manager. So it's another piece that's installed with Veeam Backup and Replication, which is a web console that that connects to Active Directory, and you can grant users certain permissions and roles, so that way they could do their own restores, or they can only be a read-only user, so they could just view data sets, but they can't actually recover anything. So that gives them additional options as well if you're looking at kind of expanding some of those roles and responsibilities within the organization.
Thanks, Emily. We have a couple more questions, so I think we'll sneak them in. Next question, does the backup and replication integrate with any remote monitoring and management solutions?
It does. So there are some additional plugins that you can find out there. So like I know SolarWinds has like a plugin for Veeam Backup and Replication, and then a few other ones. The nice thing about Veeam is that we have an open API. So we have a data API that you could actually take any of your backups and you could write them across to another product. So this is something we didn't talk about that is part of version 10. So we actually had a really good write-up from Veeam On for an end user that actually used the data integration API to have his security vendor go ahead and run checks across all of the backups without having to crack those open. So just different options there. So yes, there are many ways that you can integrate Veeam with other third-party solutions, leveraging the RESTful API as well as the data integration API.
Great, thank you. This might be a good add-on. What if my virtual environment includes VMware's vSphere and Microsoft Hyper-V?
Yep. So both of those would be automatically protected. So the one nice thing about Veeam is that the Veeam Backup and Replication console can support multiple infrastructures, regardless if it's VMware or Hyper-V. All of those infrastructures can be added in underneath a single console, as well as the agents for any physical or cloud workloads. Those can be added in underneath the console as well. So you have a single pane of glass when it comes to deploying and scheduling your backups, as well as handling resource.
Great, thanks, Emily. We're going to sneak one more question in. What workloads can Veeam Backup and Replication protect? Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Yep, yeah, so that would be pretty much all the above, right? So Hyper-V virtual machines, VMware virtual machines, and then with the new added patch update of vSphere 7, it would include those workloads as well. If you have AWS workloads or Azure workloads, we can deploy agents on those. But if you're looking at leveraging within AWS, like EC2 instances or EBS volumes, I would definitely recommend checking out two of our newest products that were introduced this year, which was Veeam Backup for AWS. We had Veeam Backup for AWS version 2 get released last week with our announcement at Veeam On. So it's going to allow you to do some really cool things when it comes to maintaining your backups from within the cloud. And then it also integrates with Veeam Backup and Replication, where you can actually read the backups that were taken from AWS and that product and handle restores from your Veeam Backup and Replication server. So there's two new products, the Veeam Backup for AWS and then Veeam Backup for Azure to support any of those Azure virtual machine workloads. If you want to leverage native snapshots, you would use those two products. If you would rather leverage the agents, you can as well. But those are going to be all the types of workloads you support, as well as unstructured data, so NAS.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. That actually does conclude our questions for today. Thank you again, everyone, for your time and attention. I'll just chime in on Neil and see if you have any closing thoughts, Neil. Did I put Neil on the spot?
Sorry, having
I
problem.
think we're
Sorry, I'm having trouble with the mute
oh,
button
no.
there. No,
No.
there I am. Hello?
Go ahead, Neil. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thanks, everyone. Emily, thank you very much for the presentation. Everyone, okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Neil. And again, thank you to Emily Tejas and to the Veeam team, and for everyone joining us today. That concludes our session, and we hope to see you on a future cStor event very soon. We hope everyone has a fantastic day.
Thank you.